How do we support people while they're eating? How do we support people to get dressed? How do we support them to safely transfer? So we're fortunate that we have those resources that we are well aware not every county board has at their disposal. So we have always kind of been, I think, at the forefront of leading kind of assistive technology promotion.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest installment of Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I am your host, Nick Comstock. You guys, before I get into another great episode of Nick Speaks and my fantastic guest, I want to give you some show notes. As you guys know, back on April 30th, 2025, I released a book along with 11 other authors called Trailblazing and Transforming Entrepreneurial Stories of People with Disabilities. I'm chapter 5, Breaking the Mold. It is 12 entrepreneurial stories of people with disabilities about our journey with our struggle to find employment and what we are doing to make ourselves a part of our communities and give back and just simply become normal taxpayers. I know a lot of you are out there like, I wish I didn't have to pay taxes. I know, okay, talk to me about that later, but I still enjoy being a part of my community. It's the reason why I do this podcast and public speaking, to eventually get paid from it, feel like I'm just not loafing around waiting on a government check. So if you could please support that book, Trailblazing and Transforming Entrepreneurial Stories of People with Disabilities, I would greatly appreciate it. You can get it on your Amazon Kindle device and in paperback. We are working on an audio version, and I will let you know when that is available. But for now, get it on your Kindle device or in paperback on Amazon.com. There's also a link in the show notes. Also, guys, I love bringing you awesome content and all the great guests that I have in the monologues for my podcast, Nick Speaks. But honestly, there's a cost for that. I have producing costs and editor costs and all those things. So if you would please help me, my GoFundMe is in the link tree. Also, if you could give like $5, $10, $15 to help with that. It says van fundraiser. It is also helping me to eventually get my van, or just so I can get around on my own. And also eventually help me with my other public speaking endeavors. So if you could help me with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Now that we've got those pesky show notes out of the way, I want to get to my guest. You guys, we are a technology first state. And today we are going to learn all about that. Last week, you heard me interview with Kelly Shuck from the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and we barely touched on it in last week's episode. But today, our whole episode is going to be devoted to that. And we are talking with Carly Dauch, who is a part of Wood County's technology hub. I am so excited to have her. She's going to bring her experience to the program, and we have a PowerPoint and all that good stuff. So please help me welcome Carly Dauch to the program. Carly, how are you?
I'm good, Nick. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm awesome. I hope I said your name right
You did. You nailed it.
and all that good stuff, because we've been talking about that off air. I'm like, dear God, I hope I say her name right. So I
You
did.
did.
And so, Carly, why don't you tell the Nick Speaks listeners and viewers about a little bit about you and what you do for a living? And we're going to jump in and have a good time. I'm going to ask you some questions, and we're going to have a PowerPoint and a virtual tour. So, for those of you who are just listening right now, you're going to want to go to my YouTube channel and watch this because we have a PowerPoint and all kinds of great stuff. So, be sure you go to my YouTube channel and actually watch today's episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, Carly, jump in and tell everybody about yourself.
Sure, I am Carly Dauch. I am the Health Supports Coordinator with the Wood County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I'm an occupational therapist by trade, or an OT, and I have been in this field and at the county board for coming up on 8 years. Um, this was actually my first full-time job out of college, out of OT school. I went to the University of Toledo and did my undergraduate at the Ohio State University. Um, so I'm happy to be here. So I started about 8 years ago, which would have been 2017. And it just so happened that 2018 is when former Governor Kasich signed the Technology First Executive Order. So the timing just aligned that there was a big push for technology first and technology efforts when I was coming onto the board. So that kind of fit naturally into my position. Um, and we haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. And I think it's awesome to say that that's your first job directly out of college because a lot of people, some people go to like two or three jobs before they really find their passion. So I just think that's so awesome. What made you, Carly, want to be in this field?
So as cheesy as it sounds, I've just always wanted to help people. I'm very passionate about just making things accessible, inclusive, all the buzzwords, just possible for people. I think that it's so important that everything we do, that we consider people of all abilities and how they can participate and do what's meaningful for them, which is really the core of occupational therapy, the profession itself. But I think it's also a key element of what I do in my position here. And I'm very thankful for this position. And I really just stumbled upon it. I was a new grad job hunting, applying to all the things on Indeed, and this job showed up. I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. I did my interview, still really had no idea what I was getting into. I honestly, I hate to say it, but I wasn't super familiar with county boards of developmental disabilities and what their role was. Of course, I was familiar with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but not familiar with the role of the county board system. So it took me a little bit of time to understand that and really grasp what our role was. But I think once I kind of understood it and was able to really have the freedom and the ability to mold my position into something that supported individuals in working, living, playing, participating in the community to the extent that they would like to. Um, I think that just kind of came naturally, and I have absolutely loved what I do ever since the beginning, honestly.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And it's been said that if you love what you do, you never really go to work.
That's
So
right. I agree with that statement. I do.
I am so glad that you love what you do and that you're in the field of people with disabilities because I think we're freaking awesome.
I
So
agree. I agree.
just I love that you're in the field of people with disabilities because I'm awesome in particular. But anyway, actually, before we get into our stuff, I want to say that last week I had the privilege on June 2nd. Was it 2nd? Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah. I had the privilege on June 2nd to share the stage with Carly at what we call the Innovation Summit, and we have it every year. Um, Actually, I think it's called the Innovation Series, but I just called it the Innovation Summit. I think I'm right either way.
I
Um,
think you are. I think the in-person event is the summit, but the series is like the videos and all the things that happened leading up to it.
yeah, so the
So
Innovation Summit is really, really cool. For those of you that are in Ohio and the surrounding area, next year please figure out a way to come. I don't know if they have invites or tickets or whatever, how it works. I've been privileged to speak there, I think the last 2 years. I was a part of it, and the whole day is just fun. Um, Now, I do have a little issue with their lunch choices because I would rather have pizza and a taco bar. So, whoever out there listening, get rid of the cold lunches and let's do pizza and a taco bar. Okay. Although I will say, I had a grilled chicken wrap. They did have a cold grilled chicken wrap, and it was actually really good. And I did enjoy it, but I would still rather prefer a taco bar. And their desserts were, oh my God, second to none. So,
So good. I agree.
really, if you guys can make it to the Innovation Summit next year, I'll try to announce it here on the podcast ahead of time. And we have all kinds of great sessions. I was a part of the one with Carly, which is why she's here today. And it was just so much fun. So that's how Carly and I met. And Carly is going to take us through today uh, a PowerPoint of how assistive technology can improve the lives of people with disabilities all across Ohio, really all across the country, because several states have taken up technology first initiative, although the Buckeye State is the first state to take up assistive technology initiative. And that is thanks to Governor Kasich and his executive order back in, what did we say, 2017?
2018.
2018. So 2017 is when you
That's when I started. Yep.
when you started. Okay, so 2018 is when the executive order was put in place. And Carly, why don't you tell us about that? Because why is that so important, and why was it such a game changer for the state of Ohio?
Sure. So before I started in the system, there was really a philosophy shift. Throughout the state, the county boards were offering a lot of the services themselves, which was a little tricky because you have the county board as a system who is authorizing and overseeing the services, but then also providing some of those services. So the county boards oversaw residential services, day programs, all of those things. So privatization happened, which means that different providers took over those roles. So other providers were providing in-home or residential services, they were providing adult day programming, providing employment supports. And so with that, we needed a lot more providers. So I feel like probably always we've needed a ton of direct support professionals. But when that happened, it kind of put some pressure on that. And so we needed even more providers. So with that pressure for more providers, of course, workforce shortage, right? There just aren't enough providers to meet the needs of people. Um, and really, providers aren't the only solution, right? We all use technology or supports in our daily life to be more independent, to be more safe, to be able to function, honestly. Without my alarm in the morning on my phone, I probably would not get up on time for work. Without my Outlook calendar, I 100% would miss 95% of my appointments. Like, I need that assistive tech in my life to be able to function as a mom, as an occupational therapist, as a friend, even. You got to schedule all of those things,
Right.
to make it work.
Gotta schedule your margaritas and your Mexican food.
Oh, you know it. You know it, Nick. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, so we all use assistive technology, right? And so why not look at how technology can support people with disabilities and maybe lessen that dependence on physical in-person staff? Because some people, they don't need a physical in-person staff sitting on their couch reminding them to take their medicine, make their breakfast, pack their lunch, get up on time, etc. What supports can we put in place that they could do that themselves, whether that be a phone, a smart speaker, a tablet, what device can we put in place to help them to be more independent? Um, and so that's how it came about, right? There's a role for assistive technology in everyone's lives. So why don't we really make a concerted effort to look at that for people with disabilities? So that's really the goal of the technology first order, is that it puts the pressure on to look at technology first before we're looking at how much staffing does a person need. How often do they need staffing? Let's look at the least intrusive and the most cost-effective option first before we start looking at some of those other supports.
Right. Well, you say, everyone needs assistive technology, and that's true. We're in the world of technology today. I think in a lot of cases, it gives a lot of people without disabilities to be lazy, and we all
Right.
love the opportunity to be lazy. But to be honest, if I, as a person with a disability, did not have an Amazon smart speaker or did not have an Apple iPhone or an Apple Mac Mini, I would not, and this is not an exaggeration, I would not be able to live in a world without assistive technology. I tell people all the time, Carly, that I'm so glad that I was born in 1990 because I was right on the precipice of technology exploding. And I don't know how people with disabilities made it before technology. I mean, we say people with disabilities now are rock stars, and we are nothing compared to those who did not have all the technology and the resources that we have now. So,
Right. And if you look at history, that's where institutionalization happened, right?
right.
So if someone wasn't able to live, work independently, live out in the community, then
Mm.
they were institutionalized and like, okay, let's just go live here and then we'll throw some staff to help you do the things you need to be able to do and call it a day. And we know now that's not it, right? That's not the way that things should be. People can do things for themselves. They just need a little bit of modifications or adaptations and we can help them do that.
So, tell everybody what you are in Wood County is, what, like, you already told them what your position is, but
Mhm.
specifically about the tech, and then we're going to get into the PowerPoint and the exciting virtual tour that we have.
Sure. So we'll get into this in the PowerPoint, but we received, well, I'll kind of back up. So we're very fortunate in our county that we have three occupational therapy practitioners in the Department of Health Supports and Provider Relations. So that department, as I kind of talked about, our department was previously adult services. But once we privatized and we didn't need that department, we had to adjust and see, okay, what areas are we needed? And so that's where provider relations comes in, right? All of those providers are now developing and they're providing supports for people. So how can we support the providers who provide those services? So that's half of our department. And then the other half is the health supports, which includes occupational therapy and nursing. So with the OT practitioners, we're fortunate that we have that team to look at adaptive equipment for people, assistive technology, home accessibility, community accessibility, anything with your activities of daily living, right? How do we support people while they're eating? How do we support people to get dressed? How do we support them to safely transfer? Um, so we're fortunate that we have those resources that we are well aware not every county board has at their disposal. So we have always kind of been, I think, at the forefront of leading kind of assistive technology promotion. Back in 2018, we received a remote support grant. And so we really worked with that to increase knowledge and awareness of assistive tech and remote supports. And then we just kind of kept building it from there. We developed our tech house, which we're going to see in the PowerPoint. And then the Tech Hub grants came out from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and we felt that we were really uniquely situated to be able to apply for that. So we did, and we became the Region 1 Tech Hub um, in the state of Ohio. So we've been providing assistive tech support and some programming that, again, we'll go over in the PowerPoint for all 23 state 23 states, 23 counties in Northwest Ohio. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So there's only 23 out of our 88 that are involved heavily in assistive technology.
No, I wouldn't say that. We're just region one. Each region has its own tech hub.
Oh, each region has its own tech hub. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for correcting me on that because I was
Yes.
ready to say all 88 counties need to get on board.
Now, I will say we're all doing things a little bit differently. So our tech hubs definitely look different in each region. But yes, we are just region one. And then of course we still kind of provide support to other regions and are happy to talk to others too.
Oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so are we ready to go into the PowerPoint?
I think so. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. I will share my screen here and we can get started. All right. So I kind of went over all of this. That's just my title. So the county board, what do we do? Our mission is to support, empower, and inspire, which I think really will lend itself well to everything that I am going to talk about. We believe that all people should be respected members of the community, and we value partnership, advocacy, integrity, and respect. So a lot of that partnership is what I'm going to talk about today and what we've done with our grants and our technology first programming. And we serve roughly 1,300 individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our
Awesome.
services, so a lot of these look similar throughout the state. Service and support administration, of course, is the required service. So we have a fabulous department for that. Health supports, I already kind of gave that introduction, that we know that is not always a resource in every county. Our provider relations team, which does a fabulous job supporting providers. Early intervention, who supports our youngest individuals from birth to 3, getting them started off on the right foot, right, so that they are getting connected with supports early and living their best lives as early as possible. Recreation and wellness, great department as well. They do a lot of community activities. They get out and about with the Wood County Parks, a lot of the partners again that we're going to talk about today. So they do lots of fun activities throughout the community, Special Olympics, of course. So they just got back, I think, from regional games, state games. Um,
Awesome. That's
yeah, so they're always doing fun things. We do have Wood Lane School. We have a school still. We have transportation services primarily that help support our school students, but they're also always doing things like, when we host random open houses at our tech house, we lean on our transportation department to help shuttle guests to and from the house. So we utilize that department. Family support services provides supports and funding to individuals who are under the age of 22 and living at home with their families. Respite services, we have a few different respite houses. We have one specifically for youth and then a couple for adults. Those are always being utilized. I feel like those stays book up fast, so that's a fantastic program. Transition services, right now, our summer transition program is underway. We collaborate with them quite a bit on assistive technology. They do a lot of the programming for that summer program in the tech house. Um,
when you
so
say summer transition program, I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no, you're fine.
When you say summer transition program, are you talking about the seniors that are coming from high school and now going into gauging into adulthood? And so you kind of help them transition into that phase?
Yeah, so some are seniors, but the transition can really start at age 14. So any age 14 through graduation, they can come participate. And there's different levels of the experience. So there's kind of an introduction where they just explore what happens next, what happens post high school graduation. There's some that get out and do a lot more employment experience, volunteering, more community involvement to get out there and really experience what some of those opportunities are that they might have talked about in the previous year in the exploring phase. Um, but yes, that's the transition we're talking about, that transition from high school into adulthood.
That's awesome. And I'll talk to you more about this off air when we end today. But I preach all the time to special needs parents because I didn't really have anybody to help me transition from school because I went to school from the sixth grade all the way to the 12th grade. And I didn't have anybody to help me transfer from that to adulthood. And my parents just thought I was going to be with them forever. And for like 10 years, I sat in my room with a TV, phone, and computer. And now that I've been on social media sharing my story, I find out that there are a lot of people in that same position. And so I would really, this is why I said I'll get into this more with you off air. I would really like to talk to somebody in that transition program because I tell parents all the time, we can't do this. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it because that bridge could come a lot sooner than we think. And if the parents are, God forbid, not around, then the child's stuck to try to figure it out on their own. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do more than just the summer. It's just right now that's what's happening. They do things and support all throughout the year, but it's huge because it's a very hard stop. Once you graduate, see ya. You're done. And a lot of individuals and parents and caregivers and families, you've had pretty consistent support throughout your entire school experience because by law it was required, right? You had whatever
Right.
aid you needed, you had whatever accommodations you needed. Um, and a huge thing is, it's really the school team's responsibility to figure out what those accommodations are, how they can help support the student, and once you make that transition, if you're going into the workforce or into college, it then is really on the individual, right? Like the
Right.
college doesn't want mom or dad calling up saying, here's what you need to do for my child. The college really wants the student to advocate for themselves and what accommodations, what supports do you need? And so that can be a very hard transition. So this
Right.
program is very important for people. And I think it's so important to set people up for success. And because of that, we've really focused a lot of our tech first programming on that population. Um, because transition age use, they're already using their tech, right? They're already using their cell phone, their computer, their Chromebook, their tablet. They could show a lot of us the ropes on some of that stuff. So we find that that age group is really fun and really beneficial to work with assistive tech on.
Well, and I want to say real quickly, and then we'll move on. I want to say that unless you're in the public school system, I was not. I was in a private Christian school. Unless you're in the public school system, you don't have the aids that you were talking
Very
about.
true.
You don't have that because private schools, for whatever reason, are not required to do the same steps that public schools are required to do for people with disabilities, which is why I suffered so much. But that's another episode, and I've talked about it in previous episodes. You all can go listen to those. But yeah, so that is very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Finishing up this slide, we also have, some advocacy groups and clubs. So we have our People First advocacy group and action club. We also have our venturing crew, which is a part of the Boy Scouts. Um, so just keeping people engaged really with their community and engaged with whatever activities they want to be. And I should back up to transportation. So in addition to the transportation department that we also have a transportation program that is a contract with ViaQuest, who is one of the providers in Ohio. Um, and they provide almost like an Uber, really, to the individuals who are served by the Wood County Board of DD. So there's an app, they can schedule rides, and the hours previously were 3 p.m. to, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 p.m. during the week. And then on the weekends, Saturdays were 9 a to 9 p, and then Sundays were 10 a to 10 p. And just recently at our board meeting, our board approved those hours to expand. So that's going to be expanding starting at like 11 a.m. on the weekdays. Um, so that's really exciting news. So transportation is always the hot topic. And here in Wood County, we don't have the public transportation supports that other cities or counties might have access to. So that's another thing we got going on.
Do you see that eventually in Wood County going to 24 hours? Is that the goal, or is that not possible?
I think if you asked our self-advocates, they would say absolutely. But I think logistically it's challenging to find the staff to be able to do the transportation, the vehicles, even just expanding those hours to go to 11 a.m. during the week, that's requiring ViaQuest to obtain another vehicle. So there's lots of logistics that have to go into that to make it possible. But I think we'll just continue on with the program and collect data and see how it goes, and then most likely continue to expand.
Yeah, because it takes time to do that.
It does. So a little bit more about the health supports department specifically. So, like I said, we have OT and nursing. We're a consultative model, so we don't do kind of what you might think of as your typical OT, where someone might come out once a week for an hour and do home exercises or work with you in your home or at work to be able to do things more independently. We really just consult. So we receive requests and then we try to help the person to be able to do whatever they want to do safely or more independently. Um, and then that request is closed and then we kind of move on. So it looks a little bit different, but still a very valuable resource in our area. We do a lot of education and training for the individual, for their staff, for providers, really the whole team, so that everyone knows how best to support that person. And then, of course, we do a lot with adaptive equipment and assistive tech. We're always trying to learn about more devices or make devices that can help people to be more safe and independent. So that's always the goal. And then of course accessibility as well. So making sure that people can access their homes, their communities, their work, their school, etc.
Is
So
that a foosball table or is that a pool table?
it's actually a raised garden bed, Nick. It is, or a raised flower
I'm
bed, I should
blind.
say. That's
I'm
right.
I'm legally blind. I thought it was a foosball
It
table.
looks very much like a foosball table. I wish we had a foosball table, but
I love foosball. I really do. That is a game that the twisting, and then people pull the things out, and then your things go crazy on you. Of course, I pull all the way up to the table, so then the things hit my stomach. But
it's a classic game.
yes, I love it. Anyway,
So then these things on the two pictures will be kind of going over a little bit more as we continue on. So what we're really here for is the tech first, the meat and potatoes.
yes,
So drum roll, please. Doing the virtual tour of our tech house.
that was a horrible drum roll of mine. Sorry.
I don't even know if you heard mine. Did you hear my drum roll? Kind of a pathetic attempt, yeah. Okay, so can you see this virtual tour, Nick?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so this is our tech house. I'm not going to move the screen a lot because I think sometimes that can make people kind of nauseous. Um, but what's cool is this is located on our website. And you'll see as you go through, there's some white arrows on the floor. As you click those, it walks you through the house and gives you a full virtual tour experience. You can also put on a VR headset and you can immerse yourself into the house that way. Pretty cool resource for people, and has really allowed us to expand services outside of Wood County because this home is located in Bowling Green and we love it. We love to bring people to the house to do tours and programming and even overnight trials. But we also know it's in Bowling Green and not everyone can get to us. Shameless plug, transportation, right? So so doing the virtual tour allows more people to kind of see it and to be able to use it.
This looks so cool.
Yes. So as we go in the house, again, I'm going to try to,
Yeah, I'm gonna come to Bowling Green.
yeah,
I want
come on
to visit
down.
real time. Yes, this is cool.
So if you're looking this way, this is our living room. So in the house, We have off-the-shelf assistive tech, and then we also have some remote supports. So we have a contract with THS, who is a remote support provider. So if you look on the wall, we have a tablet for THS. Throughout the house, you'll see some white circles. If you click on any of those, it'll pull up more information about what that is. So these are the two-way communication devices. So if anyone listening is not familiar with remote supports, it's all about having staff not physically in person, but almost through like a FaceTime or a video call or a Zoom like we're doing now. The difference is that those staff are trained the same way that your in-person staff are. So they're familiar with your ISP. They know what you like, what you don't like, what helps you maybe during anxious times, when you should be taking your medications, when you need to be up for work, all the good stuff. So remote supports can be a really great solution for people, either in in lieu of staff, in lieu of physical staff, or in addition to. So maybe a person needs some physical support at times. Maybe an individual who uses a wheelchair, they might need physical support for showering or for hygiene or for repositioning. But maybe there's a couple hours a day after work that they just want to chill out and not be bothered. And so during that time, maybe they could have remote support instead of having a staff sitting on their couch watching them. I don't know. So that's the idea behind remote support. Um, there are in the house 3 cameras, but cameras are not required. They're just one of the options to come with remote supports. And the 3 cameras all face exterior doors. So the goal there is just to monitor who might be coming and going, to make sure that that individual is safe in their home, that there's not strangers coming around, coming in their house, and that they're maybe not leaving, or putting themselves into unsafe situations.
So there's no cameras in like bedrooms or
Absolutely not. No, 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 no.
okay, okay.
No cameras in private areas, and I'll kind of showcase what might be in those areas when we get back there. But then let's look at some off-the-shelf stuff. So right here we have a Google Home. So half the house is set up with Google technology, and the other half is set up with Alexa. We wanted to show that there's choices, there's different options out there, and it really depends on the person and what they need and what they want. We don't recommend having both because that gets real messy. But in our house, for demonstration purposes, we do have both. And as you can kind of see, we have them labeled. So you remember which one is Google and which one is Alexa.
Mhm.
What else can we kind of highlight here without making everyone sick? Um, we have some rec leisure type stuff too, but let's get back here into the bedroom. So tons of white circles here. So up here in the corner would be a good example of what might be in a bedroom or a bathroom, just a simple motion sensor. So that would let the remote support provider know if the person maybe has been in the bathroom for an hour and that's abnormal, that maybe they should check in. Or maybe that lets them know,
The staff know that would send a signal
yeah,
to the remote support staff and say, hey, this person's been in the bathroom for a really long time.
yes,
Okay.
yep, if that's the way that it's set up to be able to set that alert.
Okay.
So it all depends based on what the person's plan is and what's appropriate for them. Some people an hour might be completely normal for them, and that's just them taking their time. But somebody else, maybe if they're a fall concern or a seizure risk, that
Yeah.
could be concerning.
Yep.
So yeah, so motion sensors, not cameras in private spaces. Then here, this cabinet is a lot of medication management. So we have a bunch of different devices, um, everything from low tech to high tech. So that's another thing that we love to talk about. Sometimes the fancy schmancy, highest tech, prettiest thing is not what's needed. Sometimes just a good old fashioned bubble pack is all the person needs.
Right.
Um, and so we like to help people to kind of talk through those and have those discussions of, we understand that this is the need. Here's some options to be able to support. What is the least cost, least intrusive, easiest to use option that's going to meet your needs. Because what we don't want to do is do the fancy schmancy option that looks the prettiest, sounds the most exciting, but then the person can't figure out how to use it, and so it becomes a paperweight.
Right.
Then it really defeated the purpose.
Hmm.
So those are discussions we have all the time. In the cabinet, we have some different things for GPS tracking, different tablets, watches. Watches are a common thing that we get questions on, whether it be for GPS purposes, for communication, or for reminders. Um, so it looks like that one is the angel sense. Here we go. So this circle has some different things there: the jitterbug phone, the watch minder, angel sense, Fitbit Versa, TikTok, boundary care, all the watches.
Now, what is, oh, TikTok's the name of the watch.
TikTok, yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. And that one is a good one for individuals who might want that two-way communication ability, but also for either natural supports, maybe to know that they're in a safe location. We've had situations where the individual gets off of transportation for day program, and then they're home alone for a couple hours before mom and dad gets home. And so something like the TikTok watch is great for the parent to know, oh, okay, they're leaving day program. I can see that they're headed home and then can see that their location is home. Okay, they're home safe, and then using different supports while they're at home.
The mind. Yeah.
Peace of mind, exactly. And if there's a situation where maybe transportation's running late or for whatever reason the person missed the shuttle or something, then they would be able to call a caregiver or the caregiver can call them and they can kind of communicate and come up with, a plan B. Um, because again, sometimes a phone isn't really the solution either because that's overkill and it's too much and can be challenging to use, or because that's just not the support that the person needs and can be kind of costly. Cell phones are expensive. All right, trying not to turn too fast here. Um, You can see some other supports. So again, with remote support, there's a bed pressure sensor. So that shows, when the person is in bed and when they're not. So that could be for if a person is a fall risk, if they've fallen out of bed, or seizure risk, it could be a seizure mat to detect seizures overnight. Or it could just be the first step of elopement or running away, right? So the first step would be that they're up and out of bed. And so that can help the remote support provider be proactive in helping to support that person to keep them safe. Um, because we don't want the first line of defense for elopement to be the door, right? Because
Right.
now the person's already made it to the door. That's too far. We want
Right.
to know before then.
I have a question about the bed center, the
Yeah.
bed sensor. Because there's a lot of concerns like in nursing homes and hospitals. I've been in the hospital several times with multiple day stays. And one of the concerns that hospitals have is bed sores and stuff like that. So is there like a sensor or a piece of technology that would let a nurse or a home health aide know that says, this person's been in this one position for like 3 hours. It's time to go turn them. Do you know if there's anything out there like that?
Yeah, potentially. So even this sensor itself could be something that could help with that. It's just almost looking at the opposite. So that's one of the things that sensors on beds can be a little touchy. If you have someone who's a frequent mover and they're moving all over that bed throughout bedtime, a bed sensor might not be the best solution for them,
Okay.
because they might just completely move off of that sensor and then it didn't serve its purpose. But for someone like that, that could be helpful for the opposite reason of you don't want to know when they're up out of bed, but you want to know when they've been in that same position. So if you use this sensor with someone, you would know, maybe you set a timer or something that every so often you're helping that person with repositioning.
Right.
And I know they're coming up with fancy schmancy beds and things I'm sure that can help with repositioning too, but.
Yeah, but they're going to be a fancy smanchy price that.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, I have another question too. So, can the person that's on the bed, can they actually feel the sensor? Like, is it a lump, or is it something that's installed in the bed? Or
So there's lots of different factors to that. It really depends on the mattress and how good the mattress is, right? Because if you have it under a mattress, and again, some of them can go under the mattress, some have to go on top of the mattress, but under the sheet. They don't typically go on top of the bed like this. This is just on there for display. Um, but it depends on which kind. So the ones that go under the mattress, you're probably not going to feel. But if it's just under the sheet, the person might feel it and that might be bothersome to them. So definitely depends on what kind you get and the person's sensitivity as well.
yeah, yeah, because that was one of the things that I was wondering about as far as like, can they feel it, or is it,
Yes.
can they just go to sleep like normal? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's move. And then you'll also notice there's not a, oh, you can kind of see it here. So the Google Mini is what we have in the bedroom. So the Google Mini doesn't have a camera on it. So that would be a way that remote support staff or natural supports could call in and check on the person, or vice versa. The individual could use it to call someone as well. And I don't know, I should have looked up here before, but in the ceiling in the bedroom, there it is. We have our VAR fall detection system. So that system's very cool. It's designed for smaller rooms and private rooms, like your bedroom or your bathroom, where falls tend to happen often. It's mounted in the ceiling and doesn't require any sort of wearable for the person. But it detects the movement and the body masses in the room. And so if those bodies go from being up here where they normally are and then suddenly down to the floor for more than I think 30 seconds, remote supports will call in and check on you. And so they can do that through the Google Mini or an Alexa Dot, an Echo Dot. So they can call in that way to be like, hey, are you okay? And maybe the person says, yeah, I'm just getting something off the floor. Or maybe the person says, no, I fell and I need help. And so they can kind of respond then accordingly.
Yeah.
So the last place I'll head is toward the kitchen, I think. So in the kitchen, we have all sorts of devices. Again, everything from low tech to high tech to help support people to cook and to eat more independently. Um, so I could talk about the kitchen probably alone for an entire day. So we won't get into everything, but there's lots of options to help with things like pouring jugs or cutting food. We have an adaptive cutting board, different knives, switches, lots of switch adapted stuff so that individuals can participate in cooking that way. And if we scoot on over here, we have the Alexa now. So we have an Echo Show. We also have the flick buttons. So those are cool to point out. Those are little buttons that someone could use to complete Alexa commands if either they are nonverbal, so if they don't have a voice, or if Alexa has a hard time understanding them, they can use the buttons instead. So that's a good form, a kind of alternate access for people.
Wow. I didn't know they had those buttons like that.
Yeah. So they used to have echo buttons, which were even better because they were a little bit bigger, um, and they were more tactile, so you could kind of feel the button. But unfortunately, those were discontinued. So the flick buttons is kind of an alternative. The only downside is they're pretty small.
Yeah, I don't understand why they do that. And I don't
Mhm.
understand why, because like I've been used to, like, say I have a Roku TV,
Yeah.
and the buttons on that and the remote is so small. Sometimes I lose it and I'm like having to call my staff, like I can't find it. And they're like, it's right here. Well, I'm like, I can't feel it because it's so small. And the remotes and things used to be bigger. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of tech places, especially, if you're not considering people with disabilities, we're in the smaller, more compact era. But really, I want to encourage people that are in the technology area. Sometimes smaller is not always the best. I mean, I know we don't want big, bulky things, but sometimes when it comes to people with disabilities, our hands do better. I know mine do if the things that I'm holding have a little bit more of a grip and a little bit more bigger size.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
keep that in mind, developers.
Absolutely. I second that. You're preaching to the choir here. So a few other devices, the coffee pot and the microwave are connected to Alexa, so you can use her to use voice activation to control those devices. The Echo wall clock is also very cool. Unfortunately, lately it's been unavailable on Amazon, but it's hard to see in this picture, but there's little like dash marks that are all around the clock that look just kind of like your typical clock lines. But when you set a timer on Alexa, those light up. So it makes a really nice visual timer.
Cool.
Yeah, I love it. So we love recommending that. iGuard stove shut off will automatically shut off the stove if there's not activity for a certain time. So that can help if people are maybe forgetful. Also an induction cooktop, those are nice. They don't get hot to the touch. They use induction to heat up the food, so that can help prevent burns.
Now, what do you mean? Can you go back to that? What do you mean it doesn't get hot to the touch? Because how if it doesn't get hot, how
Yeah.
can we know that our food's been cooked properly?
So it uses induction, and don't don't quote me on this because I am no scientist, but I know that it uses induction. So we have tested it. So the cooktop doesn't get hot. So if you feel the cooktop, that part's not going to be hot, but the food and the pan is still heating up. So you'll still see and hear the food like sizzling. You'll still have those cues. You can still use a food thermometer to make sure that the food is the temperature that you want it. But if you accidentally touch the burner, you're not going to get burned.
Or touch the handle of the pan per se?
So that could still, I think all the ones that I have seen have some sort of cover on the handle, so the handle's not going to get hot. But there could be those pans where the whole entire thing gets hot, and so sometimes the handle could get hot.
Recommendation would be to wear gloves or something, or like
Yeah.
have a pot holder or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you'll also see in the kitchen that we have another remote support tablet. So the kitchen is a common area where maybe individuals need a little bit more prompting or support while they're cooking, or just supervision to make sure they're being safe and grabbing their pot holders or not touching the stove. And so remote supports can be a helpful resource for that. So then in the rest of the house, you can see it looks kind of like a classroom, and that's because it kind of is. So the remainder of the house, we have a partnership with the Wood County Educational Service Center, and they do their living classroom transition program in the home during the school year. So anywhere from like 4 to 8 students will come to the tech home to do their schooling throughout the year instead of going to their home school. So they work on independent living skills, vocational skills. They're out in the community working. Um, and it's a great resource. It's a win-win for both sides because they are fully immersing themselves into the technology in their curriculum and getting used to it. How can we use Alexa? How can we use adaptive cookware to be independent? And so they're really getting exposed to all of this assistive tech so that hopefully they'll see that as resources that they can use throughout their transition into adulthood. Um, and then it also works because I did mention that we do overnight trials at the house. So people are allowed to stay overnight to fully immerse themselves in their remote support and assistive tech experience, which is also the reason we have that THS contract because they will have remote supports live if a person is doing an overnight stay. But that that is really helpful because then if we have an overnight stay, the students in the living classroom then the next morning will flip the house like a hotel or an Airbnb. So they're doing all the sheets, doing the laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the kitchen. taking stock of the toilet paper, the paper towels, all of the things that you need. And so it's a really great real world work experience for the students. And then also obviously super helpful to us because then the home is clean and ready to go for the next tours or stays or programming.
Yeah, this is awesome. I like I'm in love with your tech house. I don't know if it would work for my situation personally, but I'm in love with it. So,
Thank you. We are too.
yeah.
So a few other ways that we use the house then. So now in the summer, the ESC is off, of course. And so some other things that we offer,
You use an acronym there, the ES.
yeah, so I mentioned the Educational Service Center. That's what the ESC is.
Okay, so they're off for the summer. Okay, got it.
Yep. Yeah. And so when they're off, we're able to offer programming like adult day support field trips. So the groups will come from adult day programs and we'll do a cooking group. One of our favorite things to do is our two ingredient donuts. It's just cake mix and applesauce. Delicious with the confetti cake mix. So good. Or funfetti. Yeah, funfetti.
Yes.
Um, I mean, is there a cake mix better than funfetti mix?
No, I love funfetti cake.
It's so good, such a classic. Um, so yeah, so they'll come, we'll make donuts and we use the assistive tech. So, we have, and some of the things aren't even highlighted on here because we've added them to the house. But for example, we have a switch adapted pouring cup. So if someone doesn't have the dexterity and the mobility to be able to pour the cake mix into the bowl, they could use a switch to be able to just press that button with whatever access they have, and then they could participate in that activity along with everyone else. Um, we have switch adapted scissors, so someone could use the switch adapted scissors to cut the packaging of the cake mix to open that up. Um, so there's our goal is to have every single person who comes to the house participate in some way in the activity. Um, and
Wow.
and because we have all the technology, we can do that.
I'm just
Um,
for the house. I'm just gonna come to the house for the donuts.
yeah. I mean, obviously.
That's I mean, that's
That's
all.
why we run the program because we get all the leftover donuts.
Do you really make that many?
Well, each batch makes 12 donuts, and usually there's more than 12, but not a lot more than 12 when you include individuals and staff. So there's usually some extras.
I'm taking all 12 home, and we may make a batch of 24 so that I can put them in my freezer.
Make a double batch. Yeah, they're
I'm
delicious.
saying right now.
Um, so yeah, that's one example. And then we also have other activities we can do in the house. One example, which I don't have one with me, but we have a simple card holder that you can make, and we use recycled like sour cream or yogurt lids. And you just put two lids back to back, and then you put a little brad fastener, and then that allows you to put cards in between the two lids, and it becomes a card holder. So we collect those recycled lids throughout the agency, and then the program can, once they're done with the cooking, or maybe while it's cooking, we make a card holder. So we just kind of do interactive activities to show how technology can help people. And the great thing about this is even when we're working with people, and let's say making a card holder, it might not be appropriate for the person who's making it, but they can always think of someone in their life who could benefit, whether it's grandma or grandpa, or a classmate, or a friend, or somebody else at the day program. Every single person ends up making one and finding someone who could benefit from it. Even the switch adapted, like scissors, for example, we took that to a youth event, and a lot of the kids thought it was amazing because it is very cool. But we're saying, I have a classmate, my friend could use this, and so that's what's amazing is seeing people kind of have that light bulb moment of, I don't really need this, but I know someone who this could open up a world of possibilities for.
Yeah, I would imagine that a place like this tech house, and being that our state is a technology first state, I would imagine that this has given people with disabilities a lot of hope, saying that,
I hope so.
yeah, I've been told I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And then I find out that there's technology that can help me do this. Now we're in the living room or somewhere, and I see something over on the couch or near a couch.
Yes.
Okay,
So
talk about that because that caught my eye.
yeah, so that's a light, and it is a smart light. So in the house, we have in that room actually, we have three different ways to control your lights. I guess four. So one being your standard just flip on the light switch. Um, Two, we have smart light bulbs, so the Philips Hue light bulbs. We have those in the lights, so you can ask Google to turn the lights on and off, to change the colors. So you'll see the color right now is green. You can change that color. We
Love
have smart plugs. So we have a lamp on the other side of the room that's just smart plugged into a smart plug, and so that controls that lamp. And then the ceiling light is this little switchbot robot. So it's a little robot that you stick onto the light switch, and there's a little arm on the robot that pushes and pulls the toggle switch to turn it on and off. So that's a really great option for overhead lights if you don't want to have to get up there and change the light bulb.
Mm, that's
But one
all.
thing I was going to point out was the smart curtains.
Oh yes, let's talk about those. I did see those. Yeah.
Yes, because you mentioned, and you can kind of see in this video, it's small, but they're opening on their own. You mentioned the thing about we all like technology because it can help us be lazy.
Yes.
So this is a great example. Lights and curtains. So like for me at home, once I get into bed at the end of the day, I don't want to get back up. And so it's so easy for me just to tell my Google, turn the lights off. And so for me, it makes my life easier because I don't have to get up. But when you think about it for someone who physically cannot get up independently, that's huge, right? That once they get cozied up into bed for the day, maybe they want to mess around on their tablet or watch TV
Yep.
or do whatever they want to do to relax. But then when it's time for bed, if you have to call a staff person to help you to turn off your lights, turn off your TV, put your tablet away, you know, you shouldn't have to do that, right? There's so many devices and options out there that you could do that for yourself. And just that little thing is huge. So
And
the
I want to say for some counties too that say, well, if staff is going to be there, then we don't need this and we can cut their staff out. No, this is all about, and I'm not speaking for Carly, I'm speaking as an advocate. Assistive technology is not a way to eliminate staff permanently. It is a way, in my opinion, to enhance more independence for the person with the disability because we may still need our staff no matter how much assistive technology we have. Like in my position, I have 24-hour care. I do have ways to turn off my lights and my TV and all that type of stuff and my fan. But that does not eliminate the fact that I still need my staff to do my cooking and everything else. So if you're thinking counties that this will be a way to eliminate staff completely, get your mind out of that mindset and shift it to this will help my client be more independent even though they still need their staff. That's just my little soapbox.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. There's multiple facets to, and specifically to the assistive technology rule, right? One of those components is, does it allow and don't quote me, this is not word for word, but does it allow the person or give the person the opportunity to participate in their environment that they wouldn't have if they didn't have this technology? Does it afford them that opportunity?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we consider.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the curtains that close on their own. I want to get
it's
rid
so
of
cool.
my
Yes.
blanket curtains now.
Yes. So those are controlled by the Google Home, and they are SwitchBot. So I'm gonna get back out of this. We could do this whole tour for a
Yeah.
full day. But just know that this is a resource, and maybe I can send you the link to our website and you can put that somewhere, Nick.
Yeah, we'll definitely put this in the show notes so that you guys can go do the virtual tour. And for those of you that are in Ohio that are not really familiar with assistive technology, we'll also put Carly's information, or maybe you're in her county, in Wood County, and you're like, I've never seen any of this stuff. And you want Carly's team to help you. Put her information in the show notes. And she'll be willing to do all this type of stuff. I don't know if she really will. I'm just saying. No, she will.
To an extent, Nick, I will
Yes.
absolutely help show you what resources are available. And I would love to show you around to the tech house. So if you want to come see us, please do.
Well,
So
definitely going to come see you, and we'll probably do a podcast episode there because that is just cool.
let's do it. All right, so the next link we have here is our device inventory. So we have a lending library that's available for individuals served by the Wood County Board of DD. But we wanted to reorganize our website to be even more helpful than that. So this is an inventory of everything we have between our lending library and the tech house. And we reorganized it to what? Can you tell what these sections are, Nick? We've got advocacy and engagement, communication, community living, daily life and employment, healthy living, safety and security. Are these categories ringing a bell to you?
Yeah. Maybe not. Okay, I'm
The
not.
categories of the Ohio ISP, Nick.
Okay. I am a terrible advocate. I should have known that already. But
It's fine. It was a trick question. I put you
yeah,
on the spot.
yes, you did.
I
Yes,
did. I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
All right, so you can click through this and kind of see. So the goal is if you're working with someone, and again, this could be anyone who stumbles upon this website as a resource, not just for Wood County, but if you're working with someone who maybe communication is a struggle, you can look to see what devices you might want to explore a little bit more, or daily life and employment. They might have barriers in this area. And so, what assistive technology are they already using, or what could they benefit from? And then, when you click the orange box underneath that says details, it pulls up a one-page handout about that device. So, that handout can be a great resource to tell you a little bit more, but also to share with individuals and families.
Now, this one page handout does not give them a thing about how just Wood County does it. It
Right.
does it on the
Nope, it's just on the device. So, it's not specific to our county, it's specific to the
device.
device.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
those can be shared out. So we're hoping that this can be a resource too to help people to kind of just as maybe a launching point to see what might be out there. We know that not everyone is going to understand what these devices are or know what they're for, but it's a starting point. So that is another resource that we have available on the website.
That is, and your lending library, which I just found out about last week, when we did the presentation together, your lending library gives the people a chance to go try some devices.
Yeah, because that's huge. We found that, one of the big barriers is the lack of knowledge or understanding about what's out there. But even once people know, sometimes you just don't know until you try it. And unfortunately, people who um, are on maybe a fixed income and who don't just have disposable income, all of
Right.
us, um, you know, we can't just go buy an Echo Show and hope it works. It's nice to have the opportunity to maybe borrow one and see how it could be useful for us and how we could use it to be more independent or more safe, and then be able to purchase it or to justify it as assistive technology through an HCBS waiver if that is a funding option. So we've also found that the lending offers, better justification of not just saying, oh, they want this because XYZ. We've tried it. We tried the device. They were successful. They know how to use it. It made them more independent. It made them safer, blah, blah, blah.
Now, when you lend the devices out, does it allow you, especially if it's a high tech like a Google Home or an Amazon smart speaker, does it allow you to set up a mock account so that way somebody's not giving out their personal information?
So we tried first when we were lending out Alexas specifically. We tried to set up an account every time we lended it out. And that was not sustainable because it was very difficult to like reset that every single time. So what we found was easiest is each one has its own account. And we called them like tech kits. So we have like tech kit one, tech kit two, tech kit three. And so that's a specific account. So when we lend it to someone, we physically deliver it to them. We ask about what routines might be helpful, what, music might you want to listen to, and then we help kind of set up some of those routines and things to make it most useful for the person. Um, but they don't have full access to, and oftentimes we'll give them we can give them an iPad with it as well that then they can kind of make some edits within the app if they want. But most of the time we're not giving people full access to the Amazon account because then it just makes it harder to get it back and set it up for the next person.
Right,
So that's kind of how it works. And we found that the Alexas are a lot easier to lend out than the Google products.
right, right. So is Wood County, do you know if there are any other counties in the state of Ohio that have a lending library?
Wow. Nick, it's like you knew what my next slide was going to be.
And trust me,
So,
I didn't. So
all right. So, that is actually, it's kind of the next slide, but it's fine. So, part of I guess I'll skip and then we'll come back. So, part of our Region 1 Tech Hub, one of our efforts was to give anyone who was interested their own either starter kit to start up a lending program or build on their existing lending program or to make a demo room or something to give other counties that option to have a lending library or to have some devices to demo. And we think that's equally as important for the individuals and families and consumers as it is for staff because staff have to be comfortable using the devices and familiar with what they can do in order to make the recommendation. So, for example, something we do here in Wood County is we have a monthly tech bite. And that tech bite is different devices that we set up in the break room every month. And so usually we have a theme, and then we have a sign in so we can kind of see what staff played around with the items. But that's intended for staff to play around and learn about what devices are out there, what features they have, so that they feel more comfortable talking to people about what's out there. But we did, I want to say it was 12 counties. We helped 12 counties in our region get startup lending libraries. So
wow,
there's
you've
lots
helped
in our
12
area, but
counties?
I know, sorry, what'd you say?
You've helped 12 counties?
With lending libraries, yes.
Wow. Okay. Come on. All 88 of
That's
you.
right.
Get on.
Hop on the bandwagon. Hop on the train. It is leaving the station.
This is incredible. Now,
Thanks, Dick.
I have to tell you because I know there are parents like mine, and if they're like my parents, I know there are several other parents out there that are like this. I don't want the technology because it's spying on my son or my daughter, which is nothing worse than what a special needs parent would do. But anyway, um, and the Chinese, they can hack into it. And you've heard stories. So what do you say to calm their fears? Because I would just tell them to get the hell over it, but not as nice as you.
That's really funny. That is very accurate. We have gotten those exact comments multiple times. And my response to that is always one, this device is not listening to you or tracking you any more than the cell phone in your pocket is. If you have a cell phone, China, the government, Big Brother already knows where you're at and what groceries you like to buy and what stores you like to shop at.
Yep.
It's already happening. So, if you have a cell phone, that argument is not valid, is usually my first point of defense.
Yeah.
And
It's
then my second one,
simple, it's not valid.
and then my second point is technology is not going away. It's only developing. You look at artificial intelligence and AI, it's here, it's happening. We just have to figure out how do we leverage it to support people in a safe way, and to be safe users of that technology. There's all sorts of safeguards you can set up, um, to help kind of increase that security around the device, around your internet. Often the same people who have this argument have the 123 easy password. That's the same password they use for all of their things. So again,
Which
you
is
know,
also a problem I've
w-
heard.
yeah, so we could go down this rabbit hole of all the ways that your technology is maybe not as secure as you think. But we don't want that. We don't want the fear factor. We don't want the fear um to be instilled in people. Just think of it as another support and that it's not going away. And how can it be beneficial? And in any time of change throughout history, anytime change happens, you're always going to have the people who, are at the front, are leading the charge. You're going to have the people who are in the back, afraid of it, against any change, regardless of what direction you're moving.
Right.
And so you just kind of have to pick which side you're going to be on and embrace it. And some people are just not going to get on this bandwagon, and that's okay. What low tech solutions can we find for you? Um, but I think it's important to educate people and really, really help them to understand that artificial intelligence technology, yes, it is tracking what you're doing, what you're buying, but what benefit is there for that? The benefit is that when I go to check out and do my click list, um, it gives me, oh, what about this? What about these last five items that you ordered the last five times you ordered groceries? And I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. I do still want that. There's benefit to it. There's benefit that my ads on my phone are geared towards the things that I'm actually looking to buy. It's helpful
Yeah.
that the internet is working with me to help me find, the items that I want. So there's benefits and there's always risk with benefit. Um, Dignity of risk is a whole nother soapbox that I could get on. Um, I think people with disabilities, we like to wrap them in bubble wrap and put them in a bubble and
Yeah.
just keep them safe, 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 safe. Well, everyone has the right to dignity of risk. Everyone has the right to take some risks, make some mistakes, and learn and grow from that. And so
Say
it's
all
not,
the time, Carly, is I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, you're fine.
Terrible. What I say all the time, because when I was wanting to move out on my own, and my parents were always like, especially my mom, and my dad too, they were like, well, what if there's a fire? Like they would go to the worst pos, and I'm like, are you planning on like going and burning my house down within the first week? Like
Oh,
this is
yes,
the
Nick.
worst.
Yes.
Like life is one big risk. That's what I tell people all the time, and it's a
Yeah.
risk. You risk your life every time you open your eyes in the morning, because
100%.
you don't know what that day is going to bring you.
Yep.
So
And let
it's
me
up
tell
to the
you, I
moment.
sleep like a log.
Yeah.
So if there's a fire at my house overnight, there's a good chance I'm not waking up either.
Yeah, and you're
I
going
can sleep through it all.
home like a barbecue. Yeah.
But, I just think that's such an important point, and I'm glad you feel the same way. it's important that we respect people enough to give them the chance to try things and to take the risk because that's how we learn and that's how we grow.
So one of my final questions for you, unless you have more in the PowerPoint, is what do you say to parents or to people in general who say technology is replacing people? And in some instance it is. I'm not going to ignore that. But what do you say this is going to take away my caregiver's job? My son or daughter, they still need a caregiver. This is not the be all end all. What do
Yeah.
you what do you say to that? What do you say to
I say I agree. It's not the be all end all. It's an additional support. It's an additional option for people to supplement other supports that they may need. But I also think there are some people who don't need the physical staff or physical support. I think there are some people who just need the technology and again the dignity of risk to make some mistakes. Um, but there are absolutely people who will still need physical support and still will need hands-on support to be successful. Um, and everyone's different. You have to look at what the person's needs are, what their barriers are, what they want to be able to do, what supports we can use assistive technology, what natural supports we can use, what built-in things in your community can you use. I'm pointing people all the time to the library. If you are struggling with knowing how to use your computer or use a device, look to your library. They have probably technology hours or technology support that they can help you, and that's a support available to everyone. That's just one small example. But, getting to know your community and getting to know what supports are out there is huge. And that's true for everyone. So that's what I would say is that everyone's different and you really have to look at what the person wants to do and how do we get them there.
Yeah, and Carly's preaching what I've preached from the beginning on this podcast and from the beginning of my TikTok channel. Shameless plug, if you're not following me, follow me over there at Nicolas Comstock. Is that it is so important, caregivers, to get your clients involved in the community. That's why transportation is so important. That's why I'm harping on it all the time, because you have to have, your client deserves to have community involvement, friends outside of their caregivers, friends outside of their family that say, oh, I may have a solution for your problem. And if we don't get people with disabilities outside their four walls, it's it's going to be significantly damaging to them. So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that helps me kind of circle back to this innovative tech grant that we kind of brushed over. That was the goal of that grant was to partner with community agencies and help them to make their programming more accessible and inclusive for people of all abilities. So we worked with the Wood County District Public Library, Way Public Library, Wood County Parks, Metro Parks Toledo, and helped them to get devices and things that could make their programming more accessible. So this is just some examples. Metro Parks Toledo, we helped get an adaptive tree climbing rig. Wood County Parks, we helped them to get adaptive kayaking and archery. Work Leads to Independence and Can Do, we helped them with some supports for the workplace and how we can make individuals more successful in community employment. Wood County Committee on Aging, worked with them to add some assistive technology to their programming. So that's our goal too. We want the community as a whole to just have the resources and to be able to accommodate people of all different abilities. So
yeah.
we've worked a lot with those partners. And then just to point out a few more things we've done as the Region 1 Tech Hub. Um, we've presented, of course, at the local level, at the statewide level, and then at the national level at the National ATIA Conference. We're very passionate about spreading awareness about assistive technology and how that can support people. As the Region 1 Tech Hub, we did virtual brainstorming throughout the region. We did in-person hands-on learning labs throughout the region. And we offered one-on-one case consultation throughout the region. And we've gotten really positive feedback. as to how that's been helpful to the different counties. And we're really happy to be able to share that knowledge and the resources with people and hope that they continue to use them and that the state continues to grow our technology first programming and to continue to make it attainable for people.
Yes. And I want to say that, for those of you who think that the world is going to be taken over by robots, I don't think there's going to be a robot. And I'm going to be a little crude here, but that's just what people with disabilities are, especially when you go through with what I go through. There's not going to be a robot that's going to be able to successfully wipe my butt every day. I don't want the feeling of cold metal wiping my butt every day. To be honest with you, I don't want another pair of hands on my butt every day. But I have no choice. So, for those of you parents that are like, oh, robots are taking over the world, they are in some aspects, probably. But I can tell you right now, if somebody came to me and said, this robot can give you a brief change, I would be like, hell no, no, we're done.
Well, and I think, Nick, as long as we as humans continue to exist, there's always going to be that need for human interaction and human companionship. Um, and so I think you're exactly right. There will always be a place for us to support each other. Um, but there's a place for assistive tech too.
Yes, yes. And in this slide, this has your contact information. Please contact her. It'll be in the show notes as well if you have any questions or if you want her to come on any other podcast. But your podcast probably won't be as great as mine. So yeah. So this has been great. I I really love this. We really delved into a lot of stuff. For those of you that are driving and listening, uh, I have a lot of people. Well, it'll give me something to listen to on the way home from work. I did you a good service today. You have a nice long podcast to listen to, but you're gonna want to go watch because the assistive tech house is so, and I'm seriously, we got to plan it within the next couple months, Carly. I seriously want to come down. I want to bring my producer down and do a tour of that house because it's phenomenal just from the virtual. So we've got,
Yeah, I would love to. Let me know when you're available.
yeah, I would love to do it. So my final couple questions for you is, what would you say to somebody that wants to get in this field, or now they're looking at it and they're like, "Ooh, assistive technology is cool," but they want to work in the field with people with disabilities, or maybe someone that's just starting? What would your piece of advice be to them?
Do it. That's my advice. Get involved. And whatever aspect you want. Do you want to help people? Do you want to be a direct support professional? I think that's a really great place to start because, especially if you don't know a lot of people with disabilities or aren't really active in the disability community, I think that gives you a great opportunity to work hand in hand with people, get to know them, get to understand what, excuse me, what barriers or challenges that exist for people with disabilities to really develop kind of an understanding of what we're up against, and to be able to then really inspire you to kind of come up with some solutions and help people to find those solutions or to create them, to help people to live full, meaningful lives, you should do it. Or if you want to become an OT or assistive technology professional, that's a certification out there. If you wanted to go down one of those routes, do it. Do that and then connect yourself with the county boards or the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities or any facet of life. You're gonna come into, encounter people with disabilities and let's help come up with solutions to make things easier and better for everyone. Um, That would be my recommendation. I think really no matter what profession you go into, no matter where you live, there's always a time and a place to see the potential of advocacy and engagement for people of all abilities.
So, do you have any like regrets taking on this job? Is this like the best job ever for you?
Honestly, it is. I have no regrets. I think my only regret is not getting involved in this sooner.
Yeah.
So I wish that in college, I was aware of the direct support professional job because I would have loved that. I would have loved to have that job all throughout undergrad and grad school to get the experience to work with people with disabilities, to learn again about what the challenges are, how I could help to make people's lives better. Um, I wish I could have gotten started sooner, but other than that, no regrets. I absolutely love my position, and I think Wood County is a really great place to be. I think we offer really quality services, and I think we live out our mission every day with everything we do. Um, I think we truly do support, empower, and inspire everyone that we come into contact with, and I love being able to do that every day.
Oh, I remember what the final question was. Um, we are the first state that came up with that word, the assistive technology, um, to start with this program. How many other states have jumped on board now? Do you know off the top of your head? Now I'm putting you on the spot.
That's a really great question. I don't know. I think there's several, um, but I could not tell you how many really are technology first states.
Okay. Well, if you're out there and you're not a part of technology first, uh, get on the bandwagon. And if you are, I want you to contact me because I want to know how other states do their technology.
Yeah, same. I would be very curious. That would be a good episode.
So it would be a good series of episodes. So
Yeah.
contact me at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com and let me know, hey, I saw your technology first episode with Carly. I would love to come on because number one, I'm always looking for guests. And I want to know how other states are doing this if you're a part of the technology first tech initiative. So please reach out to me, reach out to Carly. Carly, stay right there. We're going to have a conversation off air as soon as we end here. You guys, this has been the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud. I want to thank Carly Dauch for her wonderful technology first presentation and for her being here today. It's been awesome. Please check out this episode, watch it in its entirety. You'll love it. And if you want to contact Carly, we'll have all of her information in the show notes. And have a great week, everybody. I'll see you on the next installment of Nick Speaks. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.